Daegun is just a weak elementary school boy who really wants to become strong. He started practicing martial arts according to Lee Long, learned both Muay Thai and boxing on YouTube without stopping. All because today, Daegun had just moved to a new class and was disturbed by the guys on the desk below throwing papers. One of those guys seemed friendly, but as soon as he opened his mouth, the brown-haired guy rushed over and punched him in the face. Daegun was extremely scared and quickly apologized, but the bastard still did not forgive. The sound of physical impact echoed throughout the classroom and everyone trembled in fear. It was only when the teacher walked in that he stopped. Unexpectedly, the teacher looked at Daegun's swollen, crying face and only shyly reminded him and let it go. In the end, no one here can help you. Fortunately, right at recess, a man named Crime Lord walked in. Seeing that Daegun was stuck with a paper stating that he was an orphan, he became extremely crazy and rushed to beat the brown-haired guy to death. Turns out that guy also lost his parents, so he doesn't like this joke. In the end, only the strong have power here. Knowing that, Daegun practiced like crazy for many years. Soon he had curled muscles. Become the strongest high school student that no one dares to touch. He looks so handsome, but when he graduates, Daegun becomes a bearded grocer. It's true because schools back then were like bullies' dens, so no one could learn anything. Even the teachers were threatened by them. Then those same people were bullied by stronger people. All of these images of school violence were collected by a secret organization for analysis. They want to solve this painful problem with a plan called Big Fish Eat Small Fish. That means training a truly strong person to suppress the thugs so that school can be a true place of learning. So the question is, who will be the big fish? Daegun is reading a book right now. To make up for the time he spent at school without studying, a guy with tattoos walked in and asked to buy cigarettes. Looking at this half-thug trying hard to hide his real age made him laugh. Daegun does not sell it because 18-year-olds are not allowed to smoke. The half-thug immediately grabbed his shirt and angrily forced him to hand it over. He knew that if he didn't bring the medicine back, he would be given an extremely painful massage by Crime Lord. Daegun's glasses flashed, advising the delinquent to let go before it was too late. Seeing that the delinquent was so promiscuous, he immediately waved his hand straight towards Daegun's face to return home. A loud bang rang out. After a while, he opened his eyes and saw that his face was swollen, and it turned out that the salesman had beaten him unconscious. Just in time, the girl who came along called the group to come. Looking at every guy's face, he looked young and very fierce. Even one guy was twice as big as Daegun. The fat guy was preparing to hit him when Daegun quickly slapped him in the face, making him drool and lying down. Another kid suddenly swung his fist at him. He immediately ducked to avoid it, then used an elbow to hit his face, breaking his nose. After that, one by one, he easily defeated them, proving that he hadn't fought for a long time and his performance had not decreased. The leader was afraid to realize that the owner of this fighting style was the legendary Ikian area. Rumor has it that 2 years ago he reached the top of his bloody punching period in just one short week and bent 90 degrees. I heard you were very handsome, so I didn't recognize you. Please forgive me. Daegun ignored it and gave each guy another beating. The girl accompanying her was also punished by kneeling with her arms up in the air for 5 minutes. All this was observed by a mysterious person without his knowledge. When Daegun returned from work, a female agent came to introduce herself to the Golden Dragon Educational Organization. It turns out that Daegun is the person that this secret organization called the Golden Dragon chose to play the role of Big Fish. He finally agreed and returned to being an innocent high school student. Of course, he also had to make himself look handsome so he could go back to school as a student. In the class Daegun is about to enter, 2 thugs emerge who often force weak people to carry them around and do errands. Listening to their conversation, 3 students were bullied to the point that they did not dare to go to school. Seeing you and your friend talking and getting to know Daegun made the bully very angry. Was immediately hit by him and gave him an extremely strong blow that even Daegun was startled. In fact, the problem of bullying is now much more serious than before. The bully became more and more extreme, but Daegun still tried to endure it because before, the head of that department gave him a bunch of rules for him to follow. Knowing that this school is famous for its tiger-like delinquents. But to be the king of the jungle, he cannot act like a normal tiger. Knowing that, but after a few days of patience, Daegun couldn't stand it anymore, so he asked for a solo to see how brave this new generation was. Sure enough, the fatter guy fell into the trap and rushed in first, and was immediately punched in the stomach by Daegun. Using the momentum, he performed a beautiful NOC outhook that sent him to the floor. Before everyone's surprised eyes, he immediately walked up to the second guy and forced him to grit his teeth. For being so stubborn and disobedient and still daring to fight back, you gave him a blow to the stomach that made him wince and grit his teeth to endure. Just as he was about to flirt again, the fat man woke up, carried an iron chair, and rushed over. In the end, he was still knocked unconscious by Daegun for the second time, in front of the students in class. While he was correcting these 2 guys, another guy walked in, making everyone afraid. He is Manhwa, who is considered the real leader in the class. This guy is not the average person when he immediately analyzed that Daegun was very good at martial arts. At first, Manhwa gently asked about the matter, but as soon as he saw that Daegun was not paying attention, he rushed forward to attack. Dae-gun looked at his posture and immediately knew he was aiming for the lower body, and this was the fastest takedown move for a male opponent. Faced with this, everyone unconsciously lowered their hands to block, and by the time he knew it was a fake attack, it was too late. Above him, he threw his fist forward and successfully hit Dae-gun with great force. But when his opponent was stunned, he rushed forward again, but this time Dae-gun was knocked off his feet. Not giving him time to fall, he quickly threw something strong behind him, causing him to fall dizzy. From that day on, every morning Dae-gun warned them not to bully their classmates. I can be your friend or father depending on your actions, so please behave properly. Turning around to remind everyone that from now on, anyone who bullies should report it. I will give him plastic surgery so his parents won't even recognize him. The guys found it a bit scary to hear that but were extremely grateful, he was so cool. During class, Dae-gun listened attentively to the lecture to make up for the time when he only indulged in fighting. As for the other three thugs, they clearly still haven't gotten used to the change. As soon as class ended, the fat guy stretched out and said he was hungry. Just as he was about to send someone to buy food, he shivered when he saw Dae-gun turn around and look. The blonde guy was also sweating and told his friend not to be rude, but he was writing on a classmate. Only later did the blonde realize her bad habit and immediately jumped down to apologize. I didn't mean to do that. Why did you suddenly come down and let me climb up like that? Next time, please stop it. Their mouths say so, but everyone feels annoyed and decides to find a plan for revenge. If you're a hero, it's not too late to wait 10 years. A beauty in the class, Ji-suhai, got tired of looking at these pathetic people, so she ran to Dae-gun and asked her to go out. It was clear that she had used these flirtatious words before to attack all three thugs, so they thought Dae-gun would be lured anyway. Ji-suhai continued to solicit but strangely saw Dae-gun keep looking back. It took her a moment to realize she was blocking her view of the board. Seeing his mouth open again, he answered, but his hands were still quickly copying notes. Obviously he was a bookworm, not interested in beauty. Ji-suhai angrily stood up and went to the three thugs, scolding them that they should also try to learn and become good people. Don't think about revenge anymore. At that moment, a tall blonde guy walked in to ask about manhwa after being beaten up by a new student. He is the crime lord from the next class. Manhwa immediately knew that this guy was here to get dirty, so he grabbed his pen and took a defensive stance. The two of them were arguing with each other and preparing to fight when they were stopped by Dae-gun's shout because it was too noisy. Even during recess, you have to keep your voice down so others can study with you. Manhwa knew what he meant and immediately returned to his seat, while the blonde crime lord also led his troops back to class, not forgetting to come back and chat a few more words. Before leaving, he walked up to Dae-gun and asked about it, but he ignored it and continued diligently copying his notes. Seeing that attitude, how could he ignore it? Just as he was about to tear up Dae-gun's notebook, he grabbed Dae-gun's hand and twisted it, causing his blonde hair to contort his face and quickly ask for forgiveness. Only when his tears flowed endlessly did he loosen up a bit and gently reminded him. I need to finish copying my homework before recess ends. If you don't want to lose your finger, we'll come back next time. Okay. When he was released, he frantically apologized and called his juniors back to class. Of course it was just a joke and he immediately aimed his fist straight at Dae-gun and suddenly attacked. The blonde didn't expect that Dae-gun created this trick, so he easily dodged and let the blonde flip upside down. The guy accompanying him was very frightened when he saw the crime lord of his class being unconscious with just one move. It was too scary. Not only him, but the whole class and the gang of three delinquents also had to slow down. Only now do they realize that learning to forgive instead of trying to seek revenge will be very beneficial for their teeth and gums. Otherwise, your jaw won't even be able to sip porridge. At this moment, another group of people with tattoos all over their bodies came to ask about Manhwa's health. It sounds like they care about each other. Manhwa heard the crime lord's itchy voice and wanted to pick up his pen again, but he knew the target was not him. At this time, nearly a dozen of them were surrounding Dae-gun's table. With this situation, he also knew that he could no longer continue copying. The leader stared at Dae-gun and gently asked his table mate to give up his seat so he could talk more easily. He introduced himself as Sangho in Class C and said frankly that he did not want Dae-gun to become the crime lord of the school. But when he saw Dae-gun's face unchanged, he responded frankly and criticized himself for being too weak. Sangho knew that this new student had some bravery, so he made an appointment to wait at the school gate at the end of the day and then lead his troops home. Dae-gun looked on in fear, not expecting the first few days at the new school to attract so much attention. At this moment, Manhwa came to sit with him. Despite Dae-gun's refusal, he still pushed the chair down and reminded that Sangho was a real fighter. It turns out that Manhwa wanted to help Dae-gun defeat the Sangho, but he didn't need to. Manhwa ignored Dae-gun to stop him and still talked about how he attacked and how to suppress him. It is known that Sangho has been studying boxing since middle school, all because he wanted to become a crime lord. He often used his classmates as punching bags to practice punching and they were constantly beaten until they finally stopped. There were even many people who had to go to the hospital, but under Sangho's fear, they did not dare to utter a single accusation. At lunch everyone started looking at the handsome new transfer boy. His recent heroic victories have caught the attention of the crime lords of his classes. Even the school's beauty queen, Shiina, couldn't take her eyes off the handsome guy. Daegun still ignored it and just focused on his food because it had been a long time since he had eaten canteen rice. It was so nostalgic. Before I could eat a bite, a beauty from class came over and asked to sit with me, and immediately after that, the whole manhwa group also gathered and sat around. This guy still refused to let go of Daegun and warned him about that guy Sangho. I can't even eat in peace anymore, you're really stubborn. When Daegun asked, he found out the reason he wanted to defeat Sangho was because he had fought with him before and something happened. In that first match, Sangho initially had the upper hand with his superior boxing ability, so he fed me lots of onions. I had no choice but to use the most cruel and despicable tactic. It was an attack on his lower body that made him want to die and scream loudly to surrender. But then I couldn't even acknowledge my victory because I felt so guilty. In short, he is a boxer with many quick evasion techniques. While arguing, a pile of paper flew and Daegun's plate of food flew. It turned out that two men under Sangho's command were teasing him and then grinning and apologizing. They were about to escape when Daegun grabbed his hand and stopped them. Looking at this scene, everyone knew there was going to be a big fight. This is also an opportunity for the crime lords from other classes to learn about the new students' attack methods. As expected, Daegun is very angry. The growing force of his grip made him scared, knowing that he had touched the wrong person and was about to be beaten many times. At this moment, there was a message from the Golden Dragon Association, so Daegun was released. They took the opportunity to escape. It was really lucky. Daegun turned back to look at the message when the female department head told him to meet at the end of the hour for a date. Recall that at that time she talked a lot about the rules that not only restrained her but also helped secure the organization's existence. If I make a big deal out of it and reveal my identity, I will have to return to my previous poor and boring life. On the contrary, the reward after the project will be a huge sum of money. So just be a little more restrained and you'll be fine. Daegun reminded himself and picked up the rice, leaving behind the manhos who were still cheering for him to win. This guy is so haunted. Daegun had just gone outside when he saw the guy throwing paper at him from before. When he recognized Daegun, he immediately turned around and was about to run, but he was chained to his neck and asked about his health, but this guy stubbornly did not apologize, because there is a rule here that no one can touch a student in another class until they have defeated the crime lord of the entire school. What a shit rule. Daegun quickly punched him a few times until he drooled and collapsed, then sent for Sangho to come out here and deal with it. Hearing this guy say that crime lord Sangho is currently busy punching bags, he realized that he was using his classmates to take the beating. Daegun started spinning his limbs and decided to go into the classroom to find that bastard. Sure enough, when he arrived, he saw Sangho standing between two students with swollen faces. He also decided to play with Daegun and released two sandbags. But before that, I had to force them not to say that this mark was caused by me so that no one would know. Meanwhile, Daegun noticed that there were a lot of classmates in the room but they still didn't dare to do anything. Daegun completely understands this feeling of helplessness because before he was no different from them. Back then, when the bully punched me and made me cry, even the teacher pretended not to know because he was afraid of getting involved. In the end, the bully was oppressed by a stronger person and that person even declared directly that from now on no one was allowed to touch him. Daegun knew that it was just something he said in anger, but it helped him avoid trouble all the time afterward. And now Daegun will also decide to become the strongest bully to manage the corrupt thugs. The thug accompanying Sangho saw that Daegun was too cheeky and immediately threw his fist at him but was quickly defeated easily with a single blow. Daegun found this fat guy to be a pretty good fighter. If he was a punching bag, it wouldn't be too bad. Sangho was extremely angry when he heard that, but still restrained himself because he knew his opponent was not a chicken. He ordered the whole class to clear their desks to make space for the competition. Daegun looked at the defensive stance and immediately realized that Sangho was more inclined to fight like a boxer who would maintain distance when attacking to unleash a quick attack. Information about the start of the match was announced outside, drawing everyone to Class C to witness it. Manhwa also didn't expect them to fight so soon. Luckily, it was just in time to start. Sangho held his hands above his face and danced for a moment, then suddenly rushed towards Daegun and launched an attack. Each blow he swings is much faster than a regular boxer and continuously follows his opponent's every move. As soon as Daegun saw an opening and prepared to attack, Sangho quickly stepped back to keep his distance. The senses are also quite good, proving that the training has been methodical since childhood and above all, the speed is too fast. Daegun had a hard time dodging Sangho's consecutive attacks but was still bold enough to throw a surprise punch. Sangho knew it was too late to avoid, so he raised his hand to receive the direct attack and retreated a bit. Now he looked back and saw that his hand was red and throbbing with pain, truly a monster's strength. Although he was slightly injured, in return Sangho was able to move out of his opponent's attack range and immediately rushed forward. As soon as he judged that Daegun was about to attack, Sangho retreated defensively and was able to avoid it. The end of the punch has an extra space and this is the opportunity. However, before he could do anything, Daegun threw a powerful low kick into the dangerous leg joint. Sangho winced in pain but still tried to hold back from throwing a hook punch, but Daegun easily avoided it. Immediately after that, he repeated the low kick to his elbow again, making a huge sound and impact. Class D Crime Lord was also watching in pain and soon learned that Sangho had clearly grasped his opponent's punch. But I forgot to pay attention to the low kick. Considering he lost a leg, Sangho's speed will now be greatly affected. At this moment, Daegun, with a cold face, forced Sangho to stand up and continue fighting. Seeing that his aggressive attitude remained unchanged, he immediately threw a powerful kick and threw Sangho onto his back in pain. Only then did he stand up with one shaky leg. Truly the king was stubborn. As soon as he saw that he was about to attack, he immediately took a stance and pulled his leg up to avoid being hit on the old wound. I didn't expect it to be just a fake attack. Daegun quickly performed a powerful hook punch, sending Sangho flying, pinning him straight to the wall. He still did not give his opponent any time to rest, so he pressed in and launched a series of direct attacks. Even breaking through Sangho's defenses and focusing on his weak points, he could only stand still and endure the battle. Sangho's situation now is like a punching bag. Back then at the gym everyone admired Sangho's strength. However, I have never seen him participate in any competitions before. Because at school he uses classmates as condoms to torture him and this is much better than the stuff at the gym. Not only that, there are also a bunch of people waiting in line to be beaten. If it's so fun, why join the competition? Sangho did not expect that one day he would have to act as a punching bag for others to beat and gradually absorb the pain. But Daegun still refused to stop until the sandbag broke its string and fell down. That's when Sangho completely collapsed and silently accepted that he couldn't win. Daegun still coldly walked forward. I'll give you 10 seconds to stand up and wait for the sandbag position. Everyone was waiting anxiously, including Sangho's friends. This guy is sweating because he knows that Sangho is always obsessed with meat sandbags and has dragons and phoenixes tattooed on his body. He did these things just because he wanted to make himself stronger on the outside, but in reality he was afraid of being beaten. Unable to control himself, he stopped Daegun and told Sangho that he had lost. But what he needed was to hear those words from Sangho's own mouth. When he saw that he had embarrassingly accepted defeat, he didn't make it difficult anymore, but forgave him and returned to class. Sangho's face was kneeling humiliated in front of everyone and everyone was happy to escape being bullied. While returning, he encountered a rude guy. He taunted him that he came here to be Sangho's punching bag, right? But when he looked into the classroom, he realized the truth, immediately turned pale and scared, apologized to Daegun and quickly returned to class, just in time to see the manhwa group walking out proudly as if the recent victory was theirs. All images of the match were sent to the organization and the director complimented the manager because this project was quite good. He wants to eliminate the rules and let Daegun act on his own, but the manager strongly opposes this. However, the director reassured her not to worry because he was just like a cat chasing dirty mice. It will be very difficult to catch them. But on the other hand that cat is in our hands. So let them go crazy with each other and satisfy their desires. That very day, the news that Sangho had been defeated was spread throughout the school to the crime lords of other classes. But they seemed really strong, so I didn't care. A Class D crime lord named EUGSO, famous for his intelligence, realized that Daegun was a little different, so a clear plan was needed. The female student next to her reassured her that if there was any problem, she would call her brother to take care of it all. This girl with flashy makeup, Baek Suri, is known as the queen of the whole grade, but in fact, this title is what she claims for herself and forces everyone to listen to. At the end of the lesson, Manhwa and his group went down to Daegun to remind them that they would soon have to deal with countless strong enemies. Then he invited Daegun to go to a gaming cafe, but he was paying attention to the organization's car waiting for him. Daegun turned around and refused because he was a ranked challenger so he didn't like fighting low-rank guys. Saying that, he headed towards the car, leaving behind the losers who were bitterly looking for revenge. But I only say that to relieve anger, but no one dares to take revenge. Behind the school beauty, Shijuna also recognized that Daegun had just gotten into the car of the female department head, not expecting that she also knew this person. I wonder if this Shiana has any relationship with the organization? On the bus, the female department head blamed Daegun for causing a lot of trouble in the first few days. Daegun was also a little afraid of having his contract cancelled, but she immediately reassured him, there was no penalty. We've just had a slight change of plans and plan to reduce the rules for you. Simply put, just act as you did today. Daegun listened a bit confused, thinking back, all day it was all about punching and killing everyone one by one, but he immediately understood and was secretly happy. But wait, how do you know everything that happened today? Dae-gun recalled that the guy at the table was very suspicious that he might be a spy, so he would have to be more careful in the future. Then the female manager led Dae-gun to a luxury apartment and introduced this as the place the organization provided for him. I can't believe that one day I can live in a place with such a wonderful sofa. But I just want to live alone, not with you. The female manager coldly blamed him for doing nonsense because she had a lover. After leaving the spending card with Dae-gun, she said goodbye but did not rush to leave but went to the basement of the apartment complex. It turns out that this place is the room that monitors Dae-gun's every move, so it would be difficult for him to do something wrong. The next morning, he was tired and complained because the bed was too good and not used to it. It wasn't until I heard the teacher shout loudly that I was startled awake. It turned out that someone had snitched on the homeroom teacher, so he was called in for re-education. Right next to him was the school's beauty queen, Juna, who had been paying attention to him for several days. After getting the documents from the principal's office, she still hung around there to probe Dae-gun for a while before returning to class, not knowing what he meant. Dae-gun also found it strange today when his friend Minsu and his friends started wearing glasses like him. Maybe they have a surveillance camera attached. When I asked, I found out that Minsu actually liked wearing glasses. But since fat guy Zhang Zimu started paying attention to guys wearing glasses and keychains on them for fun, he didn't dare wear them anymore. Hearing that, Dae-gun was very upset and turned around to curse that uneducated guy. Zhang Zimu was startled. Even though he didn't understand anything, out of habit he voluntarily did push-ups and was so obedient. When returning, Juna still secretly followed Dae-gun to learn about his relationship with that mysterious female manager. He didn't know it, but only discovered a group of 4 suspicious people following him closely. Even though he turned 4 times around a building, they still followed closely behind. Juna also ran after her and secretly guessed that these 4 guys were from the same school and had bad intentions towards her target. Too curious, she immediately ran closer to follow, but was discovered by a big guy in the group. This delusional guy thought this girl liked him and asked her to go to a hotel. Because he was so panicked, Juna pulled out a bottle of chili and sprayed it, causing him to cover his face in pain. Seeing that, the 3 people accompanying him turned back to ask about the crime. The thugs approached, making Juna extremely scared, but luckily Dae-gun came out to stop them. The fat guy angrily took off his shirt to reveal his fat body and went to challenge his opponent and even took out a cigarette to prove that he was very attractive. As he puckered his lips and was about to blow smoke at Dae-gun, he quickly grabbed him by the bad mouth and threw him straight to the ground. Immediately after that, there was a powerful punch that caused the fat man to inhale the earthy smell and salivate, lying down. The remaining 3 guys did not expect that the strongest guy would be easily defeated, so they decided to go all out. If we don't finish this job, Gungan will kill us. It turned out that these guys were second-year thugs hired by Class E Gungan to take care of Dae-gun. This guy is very famous and is the son of a famous corporation owner, so he always hires people to handle things for him. But he didn't expect that even the second years wouldn't be able to do anything. At this time, he was dealing with the remaining guy. Even though he was very scared, he still gritted his teeth and rushed in, only to be controlled by Dae-gun and punched him in the ribs. It was so painful that he had to bend over, but his face accidentally almost hit Dae-gun's knee, but luckily he stopped in time. At this time, in a cellar, there was the sound of hasty footsteps belonging to a fat thug running away from an evil hand. Finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, just as he was about to escape, he was grabbed tightly by that sinewy hand, followed by a sinking punch, causing him to wake up and realize it was just a dream. Dae-gun gathered 4 guys to line up neatly, then gave him a few kicks in the copper pipe and asked the owner. All these images were reported to Gungan by 2 other school scouts, making him very angry. Dae-gun also questioned and learned the identity of the crime lord. When he turned to ask about this girl Juna, the fat guy told her that she followed him because he liked him. I like this piece of shit. No one would dare follow a stinky gorilla like you. Hearing these words from the beauty made him feel like he was stabbed 1,000 times. Juna ignored everything and left. As I passed by the 2 spies, they noticed me again. They are students from another school, so when they saw this beautiful girl, they immediately had bad intentions. The next morning Dae-gun went to Class E to look for Gungan and met the fat guy Zhang Zimu. Looking annoyed, Dae-gun was about to hit him again when Queen Beck Suzy stepped forward. She realized that Dae-gun was a new student who often caused trouble, so she boldly slapped him in the face, causing his glasses to fly away. A few minutes ago she was so aggressive, but looking back at Dae-gun's handsome face made her freeze. She even blushed unconsciously and called him, honey, clearly those glasses are blocking your beauty so much. At this moment, fat guy Zhang Zimu was kicked in the face, and immediately followed by countless slaps that made his mouth water. Dae-gun observed and realized that the culprit was Gungan and he himself confidently confirmed that he was the person he was looking for. Without saying much, Dae-gun immediately aimed the punch towards his face but was blocked by another person. This guy is EUGSO crime lord of Class D who came here to visit and saw something unpleasant so he rushed in to intervene. As he spoke, he tried to push Dae-gun's hand down, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move. Seeing that Dae-gun knew his intentions, he shyly withdrew his hand and confirmed that Dae-gun was misunderstanding. The other Gongan turned around and hit Zhang Zimu repeatedly in the face and blamed him for slandering him as the culprit of yesterday's incident. So the fat guy was beaten to a pulp and didn't dare to protest but just held his head and cried, making Daegun feel sorry for him. Even so, the bastard Gongan refused to stop continuously tormenting and cursing. After a while, he turned to Daegun and reaffirmed that he was not involved. Indeed, at this point, he didn't want to make things difficult for the fat guy anymore, so he had to leave, leaving behind the bastards who were looking for revenge. Daegun was so angry about the incident that it still hadn't ended by the time class started. Obviously I knew that Gongan was the culprit, but from the moment he started beating Zhang Zimu. In addition, GSO from Class D spoke reason and his authority was suddenly taken away. If you continue to act, you will only become a bad person and the only one who will suffer is that poor fat guy. Obviously, even in war, reason is still a very important factor. Right at recess, the fat guy was beaten again for messing up. Luckily, Gongan had a phone at that time so he stopped and the other person on the phone was a famous thug in the Bongdi Hall vocational school area. Listening to the conversation, it was clear that Gongan wanted to hire these outside thugs to deal with Daegun and was willing to pay a huge sum of money. They quickly agreed and conveniently offered to call the girl that day as well. Even though Gongan didn't know who it was, he still agreed. When asked, Zhang Zimu immediately realized that they were talking about beauty queen Juna. He thought, I can't let those bastards touch Juna. The next morning, Zhang Zimu went to Daegun, knelt down, apologized and promised not to do it again. He wanted to invite him to dinner to ask a favor. Invited to eat, he immediately agreed. But actually, this guy looks so pitiful. Zhang Zimu then ran to Juna and invited her to come along to apologize. Just as she was about to refuse, the short-haired girl appeared and quickly agreed when she learned that a new student was coming along. Her friend tried to convince Juna before she agreed. Unexpectedly, when Zhang Zimu returned, he was extremely worried because he dragged that unrelated girl into it. Don't know what he means. The thugs at Bongdi Hall Vocational School are also preparing for a plan to purge Daegun. After this incident, they will combine with Gongan to take over the entire school. At the end of the meal festival, work begins. Zhang Zimu led everyone to a deserted street that seemed like the shops had been closed for a long time. Daegun felt suspicious and asked again. Seeing that he was extremely confused, he immediately guessed that this guy had a problem. It's true that he tricked everyone into coming here because the vocational school team was waiting in ambush. It was too late to turn back and he looked at him extremely annoyed. The cowardly bastard quickly knelt down and apologized with great regret. The pressure from Gongan was so heavy that he could not disobey. Especially dragging the other two girlfriends into this. I'm so miserable. There was a brazen guy on the other side who wanted to go in solo first. His strange amblyopic eyes make Daegun think he is looking away and this is also this guy's strong point. Crime Lord Youngman also has to admit that this guy has quite uncomfortable eyes. When I look at those cross-eyed eyes, all my judgments to avoid the attack are useless. While bragging, I suddenly heard amblyopic eyes calling for help. It turned out that Daegun had been on my neck all along. The force of his hand was so great that he could not escape. He struggled for a while and gradually fainted. This is just a preemptive strike against their psychology. Before entering the match, he turned around and gave Era his briefcase to keep. And she was confident that she would protect everyone to the end, which made her blush and make her head smoke. Juna quickly advises you to restrain yourself because this is not a romantic scene. As soon as Daegun stepped out, 5 guys ran to surround him. They intended to kick Daegun down and kick him together. Indeed, Daegun is very strong, but facing a large number is different. He decided to knock down a guy at the wall because this was the best defense. When the terrain is favorable, Daegun will knock down anyone who rushes in and quickly kill him in one blow. As long as the opponent is in his sight, he can easily dodge and attack smoothly, determined not to let them approach from behind and sneak attack. With that tactic, he easily defeated them all, causing them to lie down and groan in pain. However, Daegun has also lost a lot of physical strength and in front of him are 2 crime lords who look very strong. As expected, Youngman soon saw and analyzed Daegun's strategy. When fighting in larger numbers, it ran back to its position to form a straight line with its opponents. This way they won't be able to sneak attack from any direction. The guy behind is blocked by the guy in front and can't attack. Then it becomes much easier to handle each line one by one. But the second half will definitely not be easy because there is still another reinforcement team that has arrived and also brings weapons. This makes Daegun a bit apprehensive but still confident to face them at most, endlessly together. At this moment, there was a loud noise that surprised everyone. That's Minsu, Daegun's tablemate. Why is he here? Right after that, Manho's team came here to support Daegun. He was a little happy when he asked and found out that it was Zhang Zimu who had informed Minsu in advance, as if he still had some conscience. When Youngman learned that the fat guy had betrayed him, he was extremely angry and promised to inform Gongan to deal with it later. Although Zhang Zimu was very scared, when he looked at the beautiful Juna, he immediately gained 500% more strength. He said, I'm not one of those guys who gets stepped on easily and I don't want to be under that Gongan scum anymore. You guys are ready to give your lives, you idiots from Daegun School. At that moment, Manho realized that there was another person on his side. Turning to his friend Minsu, before he could ask, he quickly refused because he was afraid of fighting. Even so, the 5 of us are more than capable of handling all those cowards, even if that guy is armed. Saying that, Manhwa pulled out a steel stick from his bag. Even the 2 guys next to Manhwa also had brass knuckles and a wrench handy. I don't understand why we go to school anymore. Manhwa started the match by challenging the bald guy holding the stick on the other side, making him angry. As soon as he rushed in, Manhwa threw chalk dust in his face, making him disoriented. Thanks to that, Manhwa easily gave him a painful blow to the stomach. Not only that, he also added a kick between the legs and a kick to the face, causing the opponent to lie down in pain. Now Manhwa held 2 sticks in both hands and advanced, making the 4 guys in front of him a little afraid and not daring to move forward anymore. Besides my friends, I'm also working very productively, defeating countless enemies. And even combining weapons, it's true that having experience is better. They did not expect that their previous experience of fighting and bullying would help them do something useful like this. Now Daegun is not bothered by those little guys so he can focus on confronting the 2 crime lords. Youngman is famous as a wrestler with a strong body. He confidently rushed forward and tried to knock Daegun down, but he didn't expect to be easily stopped by him. When he was about to receive Daegun's punch, the other guy rushed forward to attack. Luckily he still dodged in time. Taking this opportunity, Youngman slid behind him, locked him tightly and reminded Daegun to attempt to perform the dangerous belly-to-back suplex technique. This position in wrestling is extremely dangerous and can cause death if the opponent hits the ground too hard. As once again the wall saved Daegun's life. He quickly grabbed the edge of the wall, pushed Youngman to the ground and turned around to control him. Just as he was about to deliver the finishing blow, the other man rushed forward, forcing Daegun to step back. I admit that those 2 guys combine very well. This time Jinhoo took on the task of defending first. He is confident that Taekwondo can drain Daegun's physical strength, supporting Youngman to find a loophole and rush into control. Indeed, he is very flexible in combining hand and foot attacks. However, his speed could not keep up with Daegun, so he punched him in the face and finished him off. Youngman quickly rushed forward and intended to continue performing a horizontal hug. Unexpectedly, Daegun caught him and threw a powerful punch straight in the face, causing him to fall back in shock. Very quickly Daegun ran forward and made a perfect wrestling move. He tightened his grip on Youngman's neck again. This time, no one will come to save you. This time he realized he was truly defeated, so he admitted defeat and promised never to come here again. Looking back, all the thugs were completely defeated by the 3 people of Manhwa and Jung Zimu. Manhwa held a wooden stick tightly and invited Daegun to go and deal with the cowardly Gangan who dared to call people from another school here. Although he really wanted to, Daegun was tired so he said, "Till next day. Today, I just escaped danger, thank you for risking your life for me." Hearing that, they immediately said that it was just a normal thing but inside they were extremely happy. Fortunately, the other 2 girls were still safe, but they seemed very scared. Era couldn't stand anymore and almost fell, but luckily Daegun came to catch her, making her blush. Are weak legs beneficial like this? So if my leg is completely lost, will I be able to carry it with Daegun? While thinking about random things, Juna pulled me back to reality. She scolded the violent boys who only knew how to fight like crazy. You guys played with the bullies and beat them up. You guys are bothering the people around you and dragging them into your mess. Stop harassing students in school. Go to some royal place and die. Having said that, Juna angrily pulled her friend back, leaving the boys watching in confusion. Indeed, these words were quite true and they could not argue with them. Daegun immediately turned to Zhang Zimu's shoulder and asked him how he would choose to die. I let you choose. Let's drown easily or choose to suffocate. At this moment, Zhang Zimu was not afraid but felt extremely regretful. Before he died, he wished to sincerely apologize to those 2 girls first. Daegun reassured that, it should be done like that. You're really a bad guy, you know that? But there are worse guys out there who are responsible for all of this. Sure enough, that statement had a great impact on Zhang Zimu. That evening he gathered his friends to meet Crime Lord Gangan, but not to report the situation. By the time Gangan realized he was in range, it was too late and was suddenly attacked by Zhang Zimu. Even though I was lucky enough to dodge a few directions, against this overwhelming number of 4 guys, Gangan was soon beaten to a pulp that no longer had a human shape. The next day, the news that Class D Crime Lord had been beaten spread throughout the school. The culprit was none other than Zhang Zimu, who now very arrogantly stepped in to announce to the class that he had now changed to a new crime lord. While he was busy being arrogant, Daegun walked in, making Zhang Zimu startled and scared, taking his hands out of his pockets and sitting like a puppy. He looked quite pitiful but he still suppressed a smile and congratulated him on becoming the new crime lord of Class D. That's why I came here to punish you like the other crime lords. Zhang Zimu knew what he meant and gently asked Daegun to raise it high and hit him softly, making everyone around him feel extremely confused. True to his wishes, Daegun still threw all his strength and punched the fat guy Zhang Zimu's face completely, causing him to feel like he was thrown out the window. But strangely, he still refused to fall, so he had to look back and see that he was unconscious and lying down there. Thanks to his friends slapping him in the face, he woke up and realized he had been demoted to a civilian. And Daegun is now famous as crime lord, taking over the entire area from Class A to Class D. In just the first week, Daegun had conquered all 4 classes, making Manhwa happily gather around to congratulate him. It was too noisy. Daegun took the notebook and swung it across all three guys' faces, but they still felt happy. So sweet compared to the first time we got beaten, hee hee. But now there is one more thing that needs to be resolved, the issue of collecting protection fees from the other four classes. In the name of protecting class members from outsiders, everyone must pay a fee. Money flows into crime lord's pocket every class, and now the amount of money Daegun collects will quadruple. He angrily reiterated that those ridiculous laws must be removed. From now on, no more extortion of money. To ensure order, he often went to classes to face the former crime lords so they wouldn't dare to act rashly. The plan is called thug management, but it's not just about defeating the bullies, whose ultimate goal is to rebuild the school's image. It seems like these classrooms are very peaceful and essentially a true place of learning. Suddenly, a loud banging sound rang out in the classroom, causing everyone to be silent. That's Zhang Zimu loudly blaming everyone for being noisy. He is wearing glasses and holding an English book, studying diligently with the goal of pursuing the school's beauty queen Rina. Only in this way can one become a man worthy of her. However, he forgot that there was still a beauty in the class, Queen Beck Susie. Because she has an older brother, a crime lord, backing her up, she still has a certain authority in the class that makes everyone listen to her. However, from the day I met Daegun and accidentally called him husband, that moment made her extremely confused and shy until now. She immediately called Zhang Zimu over to ask, did anyone hear that day? Although Zhang Zimu confirmed that everyone had heard and had forgotten everything, she still refused to let it go and planned to beat this fat guy. At this moment, Daegun came in to check and the fat guy Zhang Zimu was able to escape alive. Beck Susie also blushed shyly and sat down, not daring to say a word. It wasn't until Daegun left that she continued to call the fat guy in to torment him, but in her heart, she was both happy and sad. After a while, she stopped because she was sweating so much that all her makeup was washed away. She then called Class E Crime Lord EUEUGSEO to discuss forming an alliance with other classes to bully Daegun. EUEUGSEO was extremely confused that she could ask her brother to do this. Hearing this, Susie immediately refused, because if she did, he would really die. I just want him to crawl over here and call me miss, do you understand? Facing Susie's incomprehensible request, he reluctantly agreed. He planned to form an alliance with other crime lords to deal with Daegun. The very next day, Zhang Zimu rushed over and invited Daegun to go down to the yard to meet someone. After asking for a while, Zhang Zimu refused to confess, but seeing his sincere appearance, he pityingly agreed. When he arrived at the place he thought it was some thug, it turned out to be Beck Susie waiting. Even if this bastard doesn't say anything, I'm wasting my time here. Before he could pat his head, Beck Susie stopped him with a serious face and pulled Zhang Zimu towards her. Even though this guy did a lot of things that deserved to be beaten, the only person who was allowed to torture him was I understand. Daegun also couldn't bear it, so he grabbed Zhang Zimu tightly and pulled him back, admitting that he was his crime lord so she had no right to touch him. As Zhang Zimu was pushed back and forth, he was very happy in his heart because no one had fought for him like this since he was a child. Also, having Susie tightly press her soft balls made him extremely satisfied. This feeling is so soul-satisfying that even if I die I won't have any regrets. It wasn't until later that she realized the fat man's miserable expression. She immediately let go of her hand and chased him away. When he looked so scared, he quickly ran away, but his face was still smiling and he couldn't close his mouth, so he probably wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. As for Shuri, she used her anger to suppress Daegun, but every time she looked into his eyes, she couldn't say a word. It took a lot of effort for her to open her mouth, but she unconsciously called out, "Dear husband." Makes Daegun extremely confused. He is suspicious that she knows his real age, so he locks her up and asks not to reveal this matter to the outside. While waiting, they met crime lord Songguang with two people from the famous gang. The purpose of their coming here was to discuss taking down Daegun, but they didn't expect to meet so early. However, they realized that right next to them was crime lord Beck So-win's sister. She even called her brother to come here, so they were a bit scared, so they asked Daegun to go solo some other time. Suddenly Do-jin became angry and said, "I can't let them leave like that." Immediately rushed over and wanted to check to see how brave that new student was. Daegun quickly discovered the strange noise and immediately grabbed Susie's waist and pulled him towards him to avoid the other guy's powerful kick. Do-jin ignored everyone and frantically rushed forward to repeatedly attack Daegun, but in the end he still slapped him with such force that his face was distorted. If a normal person had eaten it, he would definitely have fainted, but Do-jin was unharmed and felt extremely excited as he continued to rush forward. I don't know what kind of guy this is. After reminding Susie to keep her distance, he confidently launched powerful counterattacks that forced him to raise his hands and take a defensive stance. Indeed, this guy deserves to be a resilient king as he endured countless attacks from Daegun and was still able to stand. He decided to fight seriously. He immediately took off his shirt and before giving it to Susie to keep, she quickly covered her face and scolded him for taking off his clothes. "You're so delusional, babe." It's Do-jin who doesn't want to fight anymore because he's checked his opponent's strength. Because the real match will happen next time anyway, so just wait because I'll find you again. Just like that, they left, leaving Daegun extremely confused, not knowing what was wrong with these guys. Susie in the background appeared extremely worried and blamed Daegun for being too careless with the crime lords from that second year. Because you were too reckless with those second years, I pretended to call my brother to save you. Before you met my brother, he died at the hands of a crazy prankster. Although she appears angry on the outside, she is very worried about Daegun even though her purpose in coming here is to threaten him. I don't understand how girls think. The next day, just after the start of class, Manho's team gathered to start setting up group study. They were focusing on studying math, somehow it had anything to do with fighting with weapons. Can you imagine that math would be easier? On the other side, Zhang Zimu was smiling triumphantly when he defeated Daegun with an English charade. The guy at the table also found it difficult to understand because Daegun had always worked hard, but he lost to Zhang Zimu at the elementary school level, proving that his knowledge was lacking too much. At this moment, Du Jin came in and forced Zhang Zimu to give up his seat to talk to the new student. Although Zhang Zimu knew that this guy was extremely famous, many eyes were looking at him right now. If he gave in, he would be looked down upon, so he decided not to hesitate and immediately stood up and refused, but inside he was very scared. Only when he saw Du Jin smiling friendly and asking to play rock, paper, scissors, did the fat guy breathe a sigh of relief and agree. As a result, Zhang Zimu lost and took this opportunity to give way to the thug. Unexpectedly, as soon as he turned away, he was hit by him and fell to the ground unconscious. After finishing the feud, he turned to face Daegun and explained that he didn't want to fight because we were having a disagreement, so I had one condition. Play coin toss on the book. Talking about this guy's strength, Class G crime lord Songguang knows it very well. In addition to physical strength, Du Jin has an outstanding strength, flexibility. In the gym, he doesn't practice anything other than stretching exercises, even regularly jumping from the second floor of the gym to the bottom without being harmed. It's true that he lacks technique and only relies on physical strength. Furthermore, his personality is very impatient and makes it difficult to control his emotions. However, I have a lot of confidence in him, because from the first few days of entering the gym, he defeated all the members in the gym with just physical strength. A great person like him cannot lose. Back in Class A, Du Jin is very angry because he lost another game against Daegun. That's right, because before, I was also a master at this game. Even though I haven't touched it for a long time, these hands still remember it. However, seeing Du Jin still not admitting defeat and demanding to continue playing made Daegun very impatient. It was only when Daegun accepted Du Jin's challenge that he had proposed to take place this Friday that he happily left. Manhwa wondered why Daegun accepted his offer because it was obviously very suspicious. He had previously suggested that he would do a solo at the gym nearby and even invited the second years to come and watch. Even though Daegun didn't know what he was planning, he still considered this a good thing, because after solving Du Jin's case, it would be better if he wanted to deal with the second years as well. At least this way I can solve the problem of them collecting protection money from the first year. As soon as Du Jin left, another guy came to Daegun and asked him to fight that Du Jin, but please don't beat him. He introduced himself as Du Hyun and was forced by the thug to bet 500,000 won on him in the upcoming fight with Daegun. If you win I won't get my money back. Daegun asked and learned that this guy was also quite good at English, so he agreed to beat Du Jin. I have to win an English charade with that guy over there, so I need your help. Just as agreed, when he returned, Daegun went with Du Hyun to learn English. While he was memorizing new words, Du Hyun was next to him, talking about the bet in the upcoming match with that thug Du Jin. Daegun also thought it was a good idea, so Daegun immediately led Du Hyun to the position of money with low interest. But when faced with the question of the store owner's age, he felt extremely confused. If I tell the truth about my age and my identity is revealed, the organization will know that it won't leave me alone, so I'll find a chance to leave. However, the store owner thought Daegun was here to tease him, so he rushed to attack. Unexpectedly, Daegun could defeat that bastard with just one blow. By the way, I was curious to take a look at the new notebook and discovered that it had a photo of my school's President Lee. I don't know what his relationship is here. Before he could finish investigating, there was a sound outside the door, causing Daegun to be alert and quickly hide. Soon the appointment day arrived, but today the weather was very bad. Du Jin and his accomplices came to the gym in an enthusiastic mood, thinking they were early, but who knew their bald friend had arrived earlier. They are focusing on cleaning up and preparing for the arena because there will be many guests coming to witness it today. At this moment a group of people walked in, making everyone quiet. It was a gang of second-year bullies consisting of a dozen brazen guys led by a bald crime lord who looked extremely energetic. In the distance, there is also a group coming, the Manhwa group, following Daegun to support even though he tried to chase them away. These guys even carry a weapon bag full of sticks in case of an emergency. Stop it and be human, guys. On the way, they enthusiastically advised Daegun on Du Jin's fighting style, not knowing that he already understood these things after one punch from him. Suddenly, a text message was sent to Daegun's phone, causing his expression to change. I immediately ordered Manhwa and the others to go first while I had something to do and would come back in a while. The Manhwa group also listened and announced that Daegun would come later, making the bald second-year crime lord a bit angry because he had to wait. While waiting, they looked at the second years with a bit of fear because they saw all 5 crime lords were here. I thought it was just guests, but I didn't expect another gang to come in with dozens of people. This gang with the name of a divine lineage was made crime lord by my GCO, and the person who led them here was the leader of the same class as Juna. Although this Lee Sung looks like a nerd, he has hidden power that no one dares to touch. After a long time, everyone waited hard, but it seemed like Du Jin couldn't be patient any longer. Seeing that his coin price was falling made him extremely angry. He threw his phone on the ground, breaking the quiet atmosphere. Why hasn't that guy come yet? Bored me to death. Someone come out here so I can start it up. He immediately remembered and turned to Manhwa to call to entertain himself while waiting. The bald crime lord also supports this because in his free time he needs something to entertain himself. Manhwa looked worried and was about to grab a weapon and rush in when the bald crime lord of Class G stood up to stop him. We have to keep the fighter in the best condition for the main match so we can't waste our energy. Waste of shit. He cursed at his friend because he was really losing his patience. While they were tense, there was the sound of the door opening, making everyone turn around eagerly. The funniest thing is that Du Jin thought it was Dae-gun but who knew it was Kim Mi-young. Not knowing his identity and still talking nonsense, Du Jin rushed forward and punched him in the face. Taking the opportunity, he immediately vented all his anger at this guy with countless powerful attacks. As for Dae-gun, he was at the money-lending place the other day and at his feet were many people who had been defeated. Just like that, he abandoned them and left. In his hand he carried a pile of photos of Chairman Lee taken with a mysterious black-shirt man. Returning to the arena, Du Jin defeated Kim Mi-young but was still not satisfied so he called Manhwa to be the next punching bag. At this moment Dae-gun appeared as a savior, making everyone happy again. Just by looking at him, he could guess that this bastard Du Jin had tortured Kim Mi-young beyond recognition. Without saying much, Dae-gun immediately smiled over his jacket and kicked Du Jin's two friends in the face, causing them to lose consciousness immediately. I also finished warming up with your friend. It's a pity that last time it was just a simple fight but today I will take care of you from A to Z. Hearing those provocative words made Du Jin even more crazy and rushed forward to throw countless powerful punches at Dae-gun. It seemed like all his angry emotions from before were released. The more they fought, the harder they fought, but no attack could defeat Dae-gun. He continuously dodges and analyzes his opponents. When he felt he had grasped the range of the attack, Dae-gun began to counterattack and hit him in the ribs, causing a very loud noise. Followed by a powerful elbow to the face, causing him to fall backwards. Dae-gun thought Du Jin had fainted, but suddenly he immediately regained consciousness and frantically rushed to attack. As a result, before he could touch Dae-gun, he kicked him and flew away so far that even the second years were scared. After a while of probing, Dae-gun realized that this guy only attacked based on his own feelings and physical strength. It is because he has physical strength that surpasses his skills that he has been able to endure until now. The second years looked at Du Jin who was being beaten like a child and were extremely disappointed. They spent a lot of money betting, but with opponents like this, it was like throwing money out the window. At this time, Suzy was extremely panicked when she received news that Dae-gun was fighting in the gym with some second-year thugs. Suzy immediately carried an umbrella and rushed out with an extremely worried mood, thinking of all the cases where Dae-gun would encounter bad things. The more she thought about it, the more panicked she became. She quickly threw away the entangled umbrella and immediately ran to the gym to save the situation. At the gym, crazy dog Du Jin did not accept that he had lost so he slapped himself in the face to regain his composure. In bets when he continuously lost, he also did this to regain his sanity. After doing crazy things for a while, Du Jin decided to attack with all his might, but his goal of taking down Dae-gun gradually became distant. At this moment, I just wanted to be able to punch Dae-gun, but no matter how hard I tried, I kept missing. Finally, Dae-gun lost his patience and threw a punch, defeating Du Jin in the shock of all the surrounding thugs. They were extremely disappointed and thought Du Jin had completely collapsed, but he slowly stood up with a blood-stained face to challenge Dae-gun again. I'm just getting started now. Now I know why the attack didn't reach you because you read my attack pattern, right? That's why you try to dodge like a bug and find a way to penetrate the gap in my defense. But even if a bug tries its best, it will explode in human hands and die. It's a physical difference. Outside, the bald thug realized that the war had only really begun. Our brains limit our physical capacity so our bodies don't break down. But Du Jin's emotions are at their peak and his only desire is to win so his body will change, reaching terrible power that can surpass human limits. Sure enough, Du Jin's rushing speed had changed a lot compared to before, but the result was still being knocked out by Dae-gun's punch. In the end, the skinhead thug concluded that movies were full of scams, nothing like real life. Now it's the turn of the second-year delinquents. He turned to question them about the collection of protection money. You guys are not even gangsters but just ordinary students, why do you dare to collect protection money? From now on, we will no longer collect any money. Whoever opposes me, I will turn that person into the second Du Jin. The skinhead thug argued that the money was to ensure everyone's safety. Dae-gun coldly called him up, threatening to crush his beak for lying. The leader Ma Ji-seo was extremely angry and immediately ordered his 8 juniors to step up and beat the new student. Manhwa was extremely worried and was about to rush to help but saw that Dae-gun had finished killing all of them in one fell swoop. Anyone who rushes in will be knocked out by Dae-gun in just one blow. Suddenly, a guy took Dae-gun's attention and rushed over with a chair, but was immediately pushed face first and flew into the corner of the wall. Unexpectedly, that attack was from Du Jin. He had already woken up. Another second year angrily rushed forward and was knocked down by Du Jin's punch. Dae-gun immediately sensed danger and stood on the defensive, and this was the first time everyone saw him so serious. Sure enough, in just a moment, Du Jin approached Dae-gun with unbelievable speed. The moment he got close to his opponent, Du Jin clearly saw that Dae-gun's punch was like an extremely scary pistol. Sure enough, the knockout in his face sounded like a gunshot, shocking everyone. The battle finally ended with an overwhelming victory for Dae-gun. Elsewhere, there is a group of people destroying photos of Chairman Lee and the old black-shirt director. The crime lord is a young man about the same age as Dae-gun. He has a picture of me and I don't know what the relationship between these two people is. Returning to the arena at this time, Dae-gun waited forever and saw no one else daring to step up, so he took the initiative to choose the biggest and strongest kid to use his sand shavings. At this moment, he received a phone call from the female manager who was panicking, stopping him immediately. After a while of blaming her, she gave up and hung up. Thanks to that, Dae-gun temporarily ignored the thugs and led his whole gang back. Suddenly he remembered that next week was collection day and immediately came back to threaten him. Whoever dares to collect money will give me a ticket to heaven. Faced with that threat, no one dared to say anything, but their faces were extremely angry and showed signs of opposition. Dae-gun had just stepped out when he bumped into Susie's two softballs. She was now wet with an extremely worried look on her face, but when she saw that Dae-gun was unharmed, she felt reassured. Looking behind her, she saw the second years lying on the floor and Susie secretly guessed that her crush's strength was truly terrifying. Before returning, Dae-gun couldn't bear to let this girl catch a cold, so he shyly gave her his jacket to wear. Although she said it was very disgusting because it was dirty, in her heart she was extremely excited. Seeing Dae-gun proactively put on her shirt, the image that appeared in Susie's mind was a wedding dress that looked extremely romantic. It wasn't until fat guy Zhang Zimu called out that she returned to reality and quickly ran after everyone. After finishing work, Dae-gun went to the loan shop and met the mysterious black-shirt young man. He immediately recognized that this was Park Hae-jun, my old friend from the past. It turns out that this guy was the one who sent him the message before. But by the time Dae-gun ran here, everything had been destroyed and the culprit was none other than Park Hae-jun. He explained that it was necessary to eliminate all those who wanted to pry into information about his organization. I didn't expect to see information related to Dae-gun, so I contacted him. Perhaps they suspect you are a member of our side, so they want to exploit information. But it's okay because everything has been destroyed. I don't know what you're doing with your high school uniform on, but at least I have advice not to trust that woman called Manager Lee. Dae-gun was very surprised when he learned the identity of Manager Lee but also affirmed that he did not do anything bad. I just want to live a normal life and graduate peacefully. Then go to college like everyone else is doing. It's nice to see you again, but don't appear in front of me again. After Du Jin was defeated and was no longer crime lord of Class E, the first-year class was completely at peace and the happiest person was still Du Hyun. I feel like I just escaped from hell on earth. He was also given a special mission by crime lord Dae-gun to investigate the bullies and report back to him. That's why he created a secret group called the Violence Prevention Committee. The members are the people in the class who Dae-gun saved to investigate the details of the bullies' evil deeds. There are still 2 final classes that did not attend the lesson probably because they still had to practice. As for my class, no one complained about bullying. If you study well, there's no reason to bully others. It was a strange but pleasant feeling to fall asleep without having to worry about going to school tomorrow. Suddenly Du Jin's extremely scary face appeared in front of him, causing Du Hyun to wake up startled and realize it was just a nightmare. After a week, the time to pay the protection money has arrived. This made the crime lords worried because they didn't know whether to collect the money or not because after the recent battle they were a bit scared. As for Class G's crime lord, Lee Sung, he affirmed that his class would not collect protection money, but plotted to convince the remaining 2 crime lords to rest assured to collect the money because they had already taken care of that Dae-gun. Sure enough, the next day Dae-gun learned that the 2 men risked their lives and still collected protection money and immediately went there to ask for their crimes. The first is the name Dong 6. It seemed like he wasn't at the gym last week so he still looked defiant. However, I was a little scared inside. I don't understand why Lee Sung claims to have taken care of this case, but if the new student has come here, there's a high possibility he's lied to me. Damned. Meanwhile, Lee Sung is at Du Hyun's anti-bullying club asking to join. Although Du Hyun found it difficult to believe, standing in front of this Lee Sung gave him a very oppressive feeling. Back in crime lord Dong 6's classroom, he was stubbornly fighting back against Dae-gun, but in the end he still punched him face down on the ground and asked him to pay the entire amount tomorrow. This time, it's not a request anymore. If you're still lying tomorrow, I'll smash your face. Sure enough, at the end of that hour, he was extremely angry and went to the Eel Lord Lee Sung to ask questions. Along with that, EUGSO also arrived in time, but beyond their expectations. Lee Sung did not resist at all but played the card, blaming the losers for being stupid enough to be fooled. Dong 6 couldn't control himself and immediately rushed to attack but was immediately kicked by Lee Sung in the face and sent flying away. EUGSO, who was surprised and didn't understand what was going on, was stunned by a punch straight in the face. He didn't expect this nerd to have such remarkable fighting ability. After defeating both, he announced that he would make Daegun Crime Lord. And you cowards don't deserve that title. The next morning, Lee Sung proactively went to meet Daegun to thank him for what he was doing. Thanks to you, I don't have to collect money anymore and now I feel extremely relieved. As the class president, I am required to collect protection money from my classmates. Having the name Crime Lord also means you can't avoid the bad reputation of being a bully. But until now I'm still waiting for the opportunity to find a way to break that prejudice. Thanks to knowing your existence, I have more hope. I wonder if you can give me a chance to help you. Finally, with his cunning tongue, he persuaded Daegun to agree to become his ally. A meeting was quickly organized by Lee Sung to discuss the issue of anti-violence coalition in school. Manhwa immediately objected because he could not let the G-class crime lord stand up to direct this. Daegun immediately reassured everyone that this was his idea and thought that this guy was the most suitable person among the group. Lee Sung also admitted that he is now truly reformed and fully qualified to take on this task. As you know, the class president will collect the money. When we join the class council, we will automatically connect with each other regardless of school year. That's why I can understand the cash flow and which target we have to hit. No matter how powerful a gun is, if the aim is wrong, it is useless. If Daegun were a gun, I would take on the role of a scope to accurately set the target. In short, if you want to destroy the protection money law, you must target a key target, Crime Lord Baek So-win. But for some reason, the third-year class officials, including Baek So-win, are absent. So first we will attack the second years to block the flow of money to the above lock. However, there is still one class in the first year, Crime Lord Song-gwang, who is still collecting protection money, so this is the first target we need to deal with. This guy is known as the devil with a huge obsession with technology. In addition to improving his own skills, he always collects information from others to learn. Just as Lee Sung analyzed, that guy is frantically experimenting on the underground members, forcing them to enter a near-death state like Do Jin in last week's match. Along with that, he tried to imitate Daegun's technique but it still didn't seem to bring positive results. The next day, Daegun was studying English when Lee Sung called to report a serious bullying incident. Although Do Hyun did not understand what was going on, he was very suspicious of Lee Sung so he informed the Manhwa group. They also quickly determined that the place Daegun was going was a nearby abandoned construction site. According to the location, Lee Sung was present very quickly and decided to temporarily find a hiding place to observe everything. At this time, a student was being surrounded by 7 people, continuously suffering attacks. On the opposite side of the building is Crime Lord Song-gwang, who was looking through a tube as if observing his experiment. Sure enough, a moment later Daegun came to the scene and forced everyone to stop. He praised them for choosing a very suitable location because even if they fought to the death, no one would know. The 7 brazen guys were also very surprised when they saw Daegun, as if they didn't know that this was Crime Lord Song-gwang's entire plan. It turns out that Song-gwang knew in advance that his juniors could not defeat Daegun, so he brought him out as a sacrifice to observe and gather information about his opponent. At this moment Sang-ho appeared again. He wants to form an alliance to fight Daegun together, thinking that this way he can increase his odds of winning. According to Song-gwang's research, the most important factor in fighting well involves 2 factors. The first is that the body is created from muscle strength through physical training. If you practice more, whether you are talented in sports or not, you will still gain muscle strength. Second, like the boxing you practice, it is a technical element. It focuses on restraining the opponent or breaking bones so that person cannot fight. However, there is another necessary element that does not use the body, information. Boxing is the same. Before each match, you must collect information about your opponent. Everything from technical disadvantages to habits must be researched through analytical documents. It's not that we just get on the floor to fight, but that we've already started fighting before we get on the floor. I don't do this out of cowardice. This is not a death match between people. In larger wars, exploration is also the preferred battle plan. The reason why a professional boxer like you lost to Daegun is not because of your inferior body shape and technique, but because of lack of information. You didn't know anything about Daegun before, but he got your information from Manhwa. Maybe that's why Daegun had prepared a way to knock you out and it was a fatal blow for a boxer. That's why I prepared in advance. We must grasp information about Daegun to be able to prepare countermeasures to defeat him. Just like what Song-gwang expected. All of Daegun's subordinates were quickly defeated in a single blow. At this time, there was still one of the strongest guys left on the gym class's rankings. He is known as a speed fighter with faster movements than anyone. Even though his profile is so good, the result is still being beaten by Daegun until he's unconscious, seemingly no different from the other guys. Sang-ho was extremely disappointed and left Song-gwang behind to go fight Daegun again. Don't forget to remind your friend to keep his eyes open to gather information. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped down, he encountered a group of manhwa blocking his way. Sang-ho knew that the only way to meet Daegun was by stepping over our corpses, so he asked solo. Manhwa laughed at the challenge and recalled the painful defeat from before, making Sang-ho angry. Manhwa then pulled out a pen and took the stance of wanting to fight alone and told the other 2 to go and deal with the bald head above first. Sang-ho didn't wait long and suddenly rushed forward, forcing Manhwa to defend himself. Unexpectedly, his speed was much greater than before. He successfully hit his opponent in the ribs. He then unleashed countless powerful punches, causing Manhwa to raise his hands to defend, but the pressure was still too great. After a while of defending, Manhwa finally saw an opening and threw a low kick to his leg joint, forcing him to stop and crouch down. After backing away, he realized that both of his arms were bruised. It turned out that Manhwa used the power of time. He wore countless watches on his arms like armor. Sangho realized that his previous attacks were in vain and was extremely angry and rushed in to continue attacking. As expected, he already knew that Manhwa was about to throw another low kick and immediately took the initiative to step back. Realizing that his opponent had lost momentum, he rushed forward and successfully hit Manhwa with a jaw hook, making Manhwa dizzy, continuously followed by countless punches forcing the opponent to lie down. Up above, the two of them, Manhwa, had arrived but did not know that Daegun was in the opposite building. While they are blaming each other, the guy accompanying Songguang quickly jumped up and borrowed one guy as a stand to use the momentum to kick the other guy into the wall. Right after that, he turned around and gave the fat guy a powerful shot that forced him back several meters. As expected, he is Crime Lord Song Guang's biological brother with extraordinary physical strength and speed as he continuously fed the fat man with herbs that could not catch his breath. Here comes the movie. Hope you support by liking and subscribing. And, please comment and give me your suggestions, thank you.